The Dallas Mavericks, after losing 4 games in a row, have won 4 out of their last 5. What changed for the Dallas Mavericks? What's sustainable for them? And then Kemba Walker has been signed to the Dallas Mavericks. He seems to be ready to play. Jaden Hardy has been playing down in the G League. He looks like he's ready to play. Who should the Dallas Mavericks prioritize getting some playing time? We'll talk about that and more on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks.
Mavericks, NBA champions. It's good, and the Mavericks have won the game.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager for the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for making Locked On Mavs your first listen every day. We are free and available on all podcast platforms, including YouTube. But the best way you can help us grow the show is to comment anything below. Let me know, who would you rather see get more run, Jaden Hardy or Kemba Walker? At least in like the next week or so. Who would you rather see? Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. And joining me, as always, my co-host, writer, and contributor at Mavs.com, the cursed kid, the one more thing king. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
About those Mavs. You're welcome, everyone. Just want to say that thanks for all the thank you wishes, the thank you cards that came in the mail for me not being on yesterday's podcast. I want to say, I had to make the call like in the middle of the game I couldn't be there. There's an event going on. And I want to say, because I made the call halfway through the game, that's why the Mavs,
you're like, they're going to win. Go ahead and do it solo.
Pull the game out, at the end there. And but it was a huge win because that was a classic schedule loss. Another reason why you can't look at a schedule and try to predict wins or losses, because in Denver, altitude, second night of a back-to-back. You would ask me 2 weeks ago, pick a guaranteed loss. I would have picked that game because of that reason. And they won the game. And that was a big win.
It was a big win. They've had that big win. The Suns win the day before. The Warriors win. Count the Knicks as maybe a big win too. Like they've had they've had 4. It's a win, maybe not a big win. They've had 4 pretty good wins over the last week or so after a terrible 4-game stretch. So let's talk about what's changed, what's been better, what's sustainable for the Mavericks, and then we'll get into Jaden Hardy versus Kemba Walker. I think it is sort of a debate, and I don't know that if it's a debate for Jason Kidd. I don't know if they're going to pick either of them, but Nico Harrison and Jason Kidd have both commented on it recently, so we'll talk about that later in the show. But let's start with this. So the Dallas Mavericks win these games. Over the last 5 games, their offensive rating is about 120 points scored per 100 possessions. On the season, it's been 114. So they've been about 6 points better. That's a big jump. That's like going from, the 8th best offense to the 2nd best offense in the NBA. They've been incredible on offense over the last 5 games. On defense, they've been 1 point worse than they normally are for the season. So their defense has dropped back just a little bit, and it's still top. I think they're still top 10 in both. They're 11th. I think they're 11th in defense according to Cleaning the Glass right now. What do we think is sustainable about the offense? And we can go right into Tim Hardaway. We can go right into how incredible he's been. But what's sustainable about this offense that they're playing right now?
Yeah, that's the thing. They're averaging like 10 more points a game, for the season. They're at like over the last 5 games, 121 points a game. That's the 3rd in the league over the last 5 games. So they're scoring it at an insane clip. Is it sustainable? Even look at the 3-point shooting. They're 2nd in the league in 3-point percentage over the past 5 games at 41%. They're shooting 41% as a team from 3-point line over the past 5. For the season, they're shooting around 36%. So they're shooting better from 3 collectively as a team. But it all goes down to, I think Tim is getting, rightfully so, is getting a ton of credit right now. For the last 5 games. But I think Luka is just as much like for Tim, because you look at Luka's averages over the last 5. Obviously they're 4-1. He's averaging around 35 minutes, but he's shooting 50% from the field and 46% from the 3-point line.
Is that good?
And he's shooting. The key to all of this is Luka and Tim shooting over 10 threes a game. Luka's averaging 10 threes. Tim's averaging 11 threes over both of those over the last 5 games. and Luka's at 46% and Tim's at 54 or 55%. Like, that's the key to it right there. These dudes are launching 3-pointers up at a high clip and hitting a lot of them. And for Luka, I think it should be Luka and Tim, not just Tim, because Luka's averages in play has went up a notch over the last 5 games.
Yeah, Luka's shooting 46% from 3 over the last 5 games. On the season, he was shooting 30% going into these last 5 games. Like, he is absolutely shooting the Slovenia out of the ball. I was gonna maybe say another word.
Even their plus minus, Luka's at like plus 10, Tim's at like plus 11. Like, they're both. This is a dynamic duo over these last 5 games.
And we were kind of waiting for the 3-point shooters to start hitting their shots, and especially Tim. Like, that's the thing that you do, Tim. Like, that's the thing that he does. And if that's going to come around, that's going to be really good for the Mavericks. And Nico Harrison commented on this. He was on the ticket recently and had some conversations about, where are you guys and how do you feel like you guys? And he's like, we don't feel like we're in a good spot. First of all, because none of our shooters are shooting at their career averages. If they would just shoot their career average, we'd be a much better team and have some more wins. We agree with that. That's the way that this team is designed right now. If they hit their threes and they hit their threes at a good clip, they take a ton of threes, then they'll win games. As long they're, what are they? I think I said yesterday they're like 9-2 now when they shoot a better percentage from 3 than their opponents. And so they just have to do that. They have to shoot a better percentage. And instead of coming from 5 guys, it's coming from 2 guys in Luka and Tim Hardaway. They have been the boost. And maybe eventually Bullock and Maxey and some of the other guys will follow suit in that.
Do they have like fries with the 5 guys or?
Well, they're not. The 5 guys aren't shooting well. They don't have a good percentage. So it's like you throw out 5 burgers and like one of them is good. Like, I don't.
With Tim, this is more than expected. If we're talking about what's sustainable, I don't expect Tim to be at this clip forever.
54.5% from 3 over the last 5 games on 11 attempts per game.
Yeah. 52% from the field. He's just playing amazing, confident basketball. And, they need somebody else. And, we were joking before the season. It's like, all right, is it Spencer? Is it Christian Wood? Yeah. Now Tim's kind of in that category too. It's like, all right, now we have 3 dudes that can, which Christian Wood had a great plus minus the other night. I wanted to give that a shout out that he had a good, efficient basketball game. But Luka needs one of those guys to be to play at this level. Whether it's Tim, it's Tim right now, but they look perfectly fine as a roster whenever Tim's playing like this. Or if like Tim goes down, then it's like Spencer Dinwiddie has amazing 5-game stretch. Oh, and then it's Christian Wood's turn. And then it's like, all right, can we get one of those dudes? Is that sustainable? Is that concept sustainable of asking one of these 3 dudes to play at this level?
It's an incredible question. Let's talk about that coming up next. Is that design good enough? Will that work over the next stretch of the season? Dinwiddie hasn't been good. Will he be the next one to step up? Will it be Christian Wood? Who else? We'll talk about that coming up. Before we do, let me tell you about LinkedIn. These days, every potential new hire can feel like a super high-stakes wager for your small business. It could feel like shooting free throws in the final couple minutes of a game where you have to go offense, defense, and you have to hit some free throws, and you just got to hit this one. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free.
Easier.
Very, very close. For free. Please go check out LinkedIn Jobs. Add your job and the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions. Easy to focus on candidates when they have the right skills and the experience with those screening questions that you can ask them. You can pick which ones you want, and you can see who you want to prioritize to interview first and then hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs the #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. Not just a bunch. They're just not going to throw a bunch. They're going to quality hires for you. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedinjob.com. LinkedIn.com/LockedOnNBA. That's LinkedIn.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, Isaac Harris. I struggled through that. I did not.
The key word started with an H, and it was like hiring or hire. And I thought you were going to say hot. And I was like, Nick, I don't think that's legal to say it like, hey, LinkedIn, keyword is hot.
Come get these hot jobs. Come get these hot jobs over at LinkedIn. Oh, my gosh. All right, Isaac. let's get into this conversation because I think that the way that the Mavericks were set out at the beginning of the season, they had these three guys next to Luka and Dinwiddie.
Like the fellowship.
Tim Hardaway Jr.
When they set off from
who's going to be the Boromir? Who's going down first? Like who's going to get taken out? They had these three guys around Luka who's going to replace Jalen Brunson's production? Is it going to be Dinwiddie? He's going to replace the role. Is it going to be Tim? He can replace the scoring maybe. Christian Wood, he's going to maybe replace some of the variance that Jalen Brunson could bring at certain times. Is that sustainable? Is having those three guys on a loop kind of, all right, one of them's got to step up at any time. Is that sustainable enough for this Mavericks team to win enough games in the regular season?
I'm sorry, I was going through my head of like who would be who in the fellowship and the reasons why really quick.
I feel like Dinwiddie is Aragorn, unless Luka is Gandalf.
See, I was going to say, yeah, and I was going with Christian Wood as Boromir of, he wants to be, and wants the playing time and wants the ring and wants to be the All-Star.
Wood's like, where was Gondor when I was there under the rim?
Anyway, so back to the question: is this concept sustainable? You
made it there. You got back. You landed the plane.
I'm still thinking about it.
I know you are.
Who's Frodo?
It's Jaden, right? Isn't Jaden Hardy Frodo? Josh Green is Sam.
Faku's not on the team anymore. So it all depends on how good you think those three dudes are. Like that's the whole thing, and how, because is it a consistency question of, all right, well, even if you don't think one player's like consistent, like Dinwiddie, then can they have a stretch to where they play at this level and they're this efficient from the field like Tim's been playing? I just think I personally think it's a dangerous game. If you had to pick one of the two ways of, hey, one star and three rotating carousel of dudes that you're hoping, there's a stretch of hot games, or you have a defined two that is more consistent as that, I would lean that route. Yeah. This
is the whole problem with the Mavericks that we've talked about, right? They don't have a consistent guy that can step up when Luka is either not at his best, like he was not necessarily last night, or when they just need something else. Luka's just not good enough on his own to beat teams. Like at certain nights, there's going to be other teams that will play really well against you. And if you don't have that guaranteed guy, you have these role players, right? And they are role players. Like maybe they're a little bit better than role players, like a step up from role players, but they still are. There's, I think Mike Lombardi, who used to work for the Patriots in the front office, had this saying where you have 25% players, 50% players, 100% players. Luka is a 100% player. He brings it 100% of the time. You're getting production. Even against the Nuggets, when he didn't necessarily have his best game, triple-double. Still scored like 20 points, 22 points or whatever, and had a triple-double, had a bunch of assists, had 2 good assists late. He's going to bring production. 50% players are probably like Dinwiddie, where he's going to bring it 50% of the time. 50% of the time, he's going to have a good game, or he's going to have a bad game, and like the variance between the two. Tim's probably like a 33% player, where the 33% of the time he's going to be awesome and do play like he's been the last 5 games. The other part of the time, you don't know what you're going to get from him. I feel like Christian Wood may be in that same boat too, where sometimes it depends on the matchup. Can he dominate against the second unit? Can he dominate against the other big? Is he going to be a matchup advantage against those bigs? And if you don't have another 100% player, then you're just playing this numbers game where you're just putting them in, you're putting them in the bingo turnstile thing. You're just waiting for your right number to come out.
Yeah.
I don't think it's sustainable like this. I think it makes for an interesting regular season that we're going to have, where you're just going to have, fans pulling their hair out, hoping that one of these guys steps up. And it's kind of brings us to another conversation of, okay, who's next? We know that the Mavericks are still waiting on their next move, but until then, it's kind of up to these 3 guys for one of them, or hopefully 2 of them, to step up at any given time.
Yeah. There's 2 other things I want to bring up that are a little bit different over these past 5 games that I do think is sustainable. You look at like Maxey. Maxey's been shooting 35% from 3 this season. He's been shooting 44% over the last 5 games. So a good jump up for him over the last 5 games. I think that is sustainable. I think he is a good outside shooter. As long as his feet is set, I'm down for it.
Yes.
Maxi's been venturing into the world of pull-up shots and, driving a little bit. And sometimes, as I get, that's the next evolution of his game, and that's what he's been working on. But
Maxi's like, guys, everyone was like, can you guys do anything else besides catch and shoot? And he's like, I'm trying it. But Maxi, you know what? Sometimes
Twitter isn't the coach or the player.
I'm gonna get so much run out of that.
We didn't even talk about the interaction the other night when Maxi went for the reckless block and knocked Luka to the ground and cut his eye. Luka joked about it post game that Maxi hadn't told him he's sorry yet, and then he's like, Maxi texted me and all that. It was fun. But the other thing of the last 5 games is Josh Green's gotten more minutes than Reggie Bullock, and I think for at least the near future, I think that's going to sustain. I think that's going to continue. That Josh Green is slowly earning those minutes more than Reggie Bullock. I think that keeps on.
Yeah, and Jason Kidd has seemed to be pretty hesitant with some of these veteran players, not named JaVale McGee, to limit minutes or to cut down minutes. It's one of the reasons why some people were surprised when Tim Hardaway got put in the starting lineup. Well, he's been around for a while. He's like one of the longest tenured players on the Mavericks. Like, there's not many players that have played in the NBA more than Tim Hardaway Jr. It's kind of crazy, but that's where we are. And so, yeah, he's slowly making that change where Josh Green is getting playing more minutes, and it's been better, right? It's been what, even though
Twitter isn't the coach.
The Twitter fans have been asking for that, and I think that it's been good because he adds a level of dynamicism to any lineup that he's been in, and he adds some quickness, and he adds some passing, and the spin passes that he's been doing over the last couple of games have been super fun to watch. And when he's not in foul trouble, and even if he is in foul trouble, you still have Bullock to come in and play defense and do some of the things the Mavs want that position to do.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this. I think the Mavs still are looking for like another ball handler, a third guy. One of the reasons why these trio of Hardaway, Dinwiddie, and Christian Wood is so volatile is because you don't have that third guy that can handle the ball at any given point. I think Tim's done a little bit of that. He just doesn't fill the role fully. He's at least handled the ball where he could bring it up the court, unlike some other players in the Mavericks. But Jaden Hardy and Kemba Walker. They signed Kemba Walker. They bring him in. We've talked about him. We don't expect too much from him, and it doesn't seem like the Mavericks expect much of him either, because Nico Harrison was on the ticket recently on the radio here in Dallas and said, quote, "We brought Kemba in as the next version of Campazzo. I don't see him playing more than 20 minutes per game." And then talking about his knee, he said, if you asked him, he's ready to go right now. This was like a week ago. He said, we'll give him a week. And then he said, it's one knee that's been bothering him, and it's not good. Not good at all. We'll see how long that lasts. Talking about how long Kemba Walker lasts and plays on that knee. So I think the question now becomes, if that's what the front office expects from Kemba Walker, would we rather have Jaden Hardy play some of those minutes, or do they need help just that much that you would rather see Kemba Walker play for a good couple weeks stretch here?
The Kemba comments were fascinating to me from an NBA GM who just, in a market that we're used to just people lying to us all the time. So that's why we crack jokes about it.
No.
Good morning.
I thought you were about to play it up. There you go. That's why we laugh about it and joke about it sometimes about, hey, make sure you ask Jason Kidd, or when people yell at media and say, ask him these questions. I'm like, bro, like they lie like almost all the time. So
I have to apologize.
And I don't blame him. Like, I would do the same thing. Like, I don't know who's going to start tonight. I've known since this morning. Like if I was the coach, that's how I would do it.
It's like how the CIA lies to us all the time about aliens and all kinds of things that are out there.
That was such a weird lane but to go down.
How many different directions can we take our analogies today? We've gone Lord of the Rings, we've gone bingo.
Coming up next, we're going to talk about Roswell after the break.
Does Space Force know something we don't? But yeah, coming up, let's get into Jaden Hardy versus Kemba Walker. I think it's a good debate, and could it hurt Hardy if you give him more time than he's ready for up front? We'll talk about that coming up. All right, Isaac Harris. Kemba Walker might be ready to play right now. I don't know if the Mavericks have minutes for him. Jason Kidd has recently said, hey, we got to find minutes for Jaden Hardy. And I'm like, we have to find minutes for Jaden Hardy? You have to find minutes for Jaden Hardy. Where do you stand between Jaden Hardy getting minutes right now and to start to work himself into the rotation, or Kemba Walker to get minutes right now that they just signed him?
I'm gonna go with neither.
Yo, the whole premise of the segment.
I just don't, as currently constructed, I don't see how. Like, who's getting minutes? I mean, who's getting minutes taken away from him? Are you really going to take away minutes from Luka? That ain't happening. So then at that point, I mean, Spencer's played 28 minutes a game over the past 5 games. He's losing a little bit of minutes. Josh Green's minutes have went up. So you start asking yourself, it's like, all right, so we want Josh's minutes to go up. So are you just flat out replacing Reggie Bullock with a backup guard at that point with Kemba or Jaden Hardy? That's the only way it makes sense, because like they have a very defined 9-man rotation right now with Maxey, Reggie, Dwight, and Josh coming off the bench, all around 20 to, Maxey plays around 26 minutes over the past 5 games. So it's like, I guess that's my question, is like, who, like how do they play? Is this are we just arguing the Facu spot? Because I think that's the thing in what we're arguing. And I think it's really telling whenever, Nico says that. When Nico said that about Kemba on the radio, it's like, wow, that was just a recent signing. It's like, yeah, his knee's not good, and just being honest with it, I love the honesty, but you never really hear that from a GM like that for a recent signing. And that's why I made the OBJ comp the other night. But
yeah, he's not gonna be ready past the Super Bowl. That whole story was dumb.
But no, I mean, I think it's fun. It just depends on, here's my thing. It depends on how many minutes. If you're telling me right now, we're taking Reggie Bullock and putting him on the bench and giving those 18 to 20 minutes to one of Kemba or Jaden Hardy, then I just need to see Kemba play first. Like, you can't judge anything because I think what they would ask about that spot, that's another thing to look at and say, all right, Jaden Hardy was really efficient in scoring 10 points the other night at the end of the game and all that. There's no game plan in that. It was just like, hey, go get a bucket. When with the backup point guard spot, it's like the third ball handler, you're actually trying to set up a system and stuff. I think that's what you're seeing Dinwiddie kind of struggle with a little bit, is trying to set up other players and all that. There's a difference of Jaden Hardy playing a point guard role and Jaden Hardy playing the last 5 minutes of a game, and you're saying, hey, go play pickup out there. Go score a bucket type of thing. So I don't think you can answer until you see how good. If Kemba looks, yeah, I don't know. It's just hard. It's hard to. I lean Kemba if he's like healthy, because he knows that he's a veteran point guard. He knows how to run everything of what we said before. Of man, like Dragic, and it'd be so cool to have a vet point guard off the bench to run the second unit and all that. But it's hard to pick Kemba because we haven't seen him play, and the GM saying his knees hurt. So if that's the case, it's Hardy party time.
So you'd rather go with the immediate help over the let's start to develop Jaden Hardy a little bit more with NBA minutes.
If that's
the question. Let's just say
15 to 18 minutes as the backup ball handler, third guard, yes, I lean the veteran for a win now team. If it's the Facu role that you're going to get in these spot minutes and you're not going to be in the 9-man rotation, but you're going to be like the fourth guard and you're going to get in, have fun, get some buckets. You're like the break glass in case of emergency guy.
Yep.
Give me Jaden Hardy at that point. Because, then get him experience and all that.
Okay, I'd go the opposite. Because if Jaden Hardy...
Why keep Kemba on the team then?
So why sign Kemba on the team? Why have a third ball handler at all if they don't think that they need one?
Though.
But they don't think that they need one. Like already...
People forget about Frank.
And he's not playing at all already, right? Like that's another ball.
I did forget about him.
I think if they're going to play him in that Facu role and it's just these 5 minutes here, maybe 10 minutes here, I think I would rather just give that to Kemba, see what he's going to do, and then let Jaden Hardy play in the G League more. Because I think he's actually getting real development there. He's stepped up. He's taking the next step forward. He's getting way more opportunity. He's playing 35 minutes a game in the G League. He's getting, a ton of shots a game. He's getting a bunch of opportunity to handle the ball, do things they want him to do. And so I think if you're just bringing him in to play those spot minutes, I think it would be a waste of the season for him. if you're actually going to come in and commit to playing him like 15 minutes a game and finding ways where, to me, I think it's, yes, a little bit less from Bullock. Having Luka not play 39 minutes a night where he has played 39 or more minutes in 8 games this season so far, like I think that's one of the places that you'd hope some of those minutes come from. The Mavericks haven't been good enough for Luka to not play 40-plus minutes a game at certain points of the season, but it's taking some minutes from that. It's taking some minutes from Bullock. It's taking some from, whoever that third guard has been, right? The Campazzo, Frank, whoever that's been. But yeah,
I'd feel more comfortable with. I'd feel more comfortable if they, let's say they put Josh in the starting lineup over Dinwiddie, and then Dinwiddie was running point in the second unit, and then Hardy was getting some run with that. Because I'm more comfortable with Jaden Hardy in the Jordan Poole role of a,
right.
I think he's more of a 2-guard, scoring 2-guard, small ball 2-guard, if we want to say that, whatever, more than like a point guard. So
yeah, he's Jordan Poole, Jordan Clarkson, right? Like
yeah. I think if he's out there with a like another vet, point guard that's running the unit with him, I think that makes sense for a win now team. I think it's a little dangerous to say, hey, Jaden Hardy, run the whole second unit with Maxey, Josh Green, and Dwight Powell.
I don't think the rotation would change, right? You'd still play him with one of the idea is that they need a third guy, or just a second ball handler on the court, and they've played extended minutes where it's just Luka or just Dinwiddie is the only guys on the court that can handle the ball, and you're like, all right, let's insert this guy to be able to handle the ball just a little bit more, be able to get his own shot a little bit more. And so I think he would always play with one of those guys. The other thing that Nico said in his comments I thought was interesting was he said, quote, "We're going to get Jaden some minutes here in the next couple of weeks. The thing is, if you look at our roster, our goal is to bring him along at the best rate of success for his success. You can't bypass time." I thought that was a really interesting quote from him about you can't bypass time. You can't give him, because Jaden's one thing right now is decision making. He's just got to make better decisions. And are you willing to? Does this Mavericks team have enough of a margin for error to allow him to error, like to allow him to make errors? And I don't think that they do right now. And so I think that may be part of the reason why they haven't brought him along at all yet. Even in just a limited capacities, that every single minute seems like, and it's in, I think fans and we have definitely felt it where every single minute matters, because if they lose a stretch, then all of a sudden the dam could break and like the game is lost. It's like,
yeah, because you got to learn you got to learn winning basketball.
Yeah.
And it's, we kind of just unleashed Dennis Smith Jr. when he came in and didn't win a ton of games. And, he's was start off the year playing well in Charlotte and all this stuff. I hope, wish the best for him, but it's not always just, hey, a guy's going to grow because we gave him 30 minutes a night.
Yeah, it's not linear.
Yeah, it's not always that. But I'll play devil's advocate to it. You also hear the Josh Green stuff of like, hey, I'm getting an opportunity. I get to play, and that's why I'm improving all that. So there's two sides. There's no perfect answer to that.
What was Kid's statement about Josh Green, that he didn't get playing time his first season, and so his growth was stunted? What was that? What was that quote before the season? It was something along those lines. Didn't really register to me like that it made sense. But yeah, so I think they are going to try to bring him along. But I do think that I think I've been right about this whole thing, and I think that they've been trying to bring him along slowly, and eventually they'll start to give him some time. And I think they signed Kemba because they don't think it's going to last very long, and they'll start with Kemba. And then eventually they'll bring Hardy into the rotation, because I think he is the reason why we're talking about this so much, is because he's their one chance to have a guy with a super high ceiling that could, explode and become either a big trade piece or could actually be a long-term piece next to Luka, right? Like for all the things that Josh Green has done this year, he's going to be a nice rotation piece. I don't see him as having the same ceiling as what Jaden Hardy could have.
Yes. I don't know if I'm ready for the Jaden Hardy ceiling conversation.
Oh, yeah, that's just what we're talking about with this is the potential of Jaden Hardy, which is why fans and we are so enamored with him.
Yeah, for sure. Gosh, now my mind's went blank. I was going to go two different directions.
So,
at the same time.
would Jaden Hardy be Pippen or Mary or like?
Now you're really distracting me.
Now I know if I ever want to get you off a topic, I'll just bring up Lord of the Rings in any capacity.
I think, I've said this before, but I think they're preparing for the next trade. Like,
For sure.
I think they're grooming seems weird, but it's like
That's a
they're
bad
like
word.
preparing them. They're preparing them, for that the 2-for-1 trade that's going to happen with some players above them in the rotation, to where then you have that, because when you start talking about like the Kemba and Jaden Hardy, and we're like, all right, I think they're going to start with Kemba, and then we're going to. But what is the like? We haven't even seen that. We haven't even seen that role this year.
Yeah, what are we getting from anybody? From Facu, from Frank, from nobody?
Yeah, we haven't even. It's not like that they started the season with that spot in the rotation, and now they've just been filling it with these other. They haven't even had that spot in the rotation, so like, it's just been. So I don't even think they're going to start with either one of them. I think it's just going to be like, hey, we'll find a few minutes here and there for Kemba when he's healthy. I don't think when Kemba's ready and healthy, and once again, could be completely wrong in this. I don't think Kemba's just going to play 20 minutes one night in a game.
Nico Harrison said that on the ticket. He's like, I don't see him playing 20 minutes per game.
Yeah, so that's the thing of, until there's some type of 2-for-1 trade above them, I just don't see. And as bad as Reggie's been, I'm sorry, I just don't see kids saying, yeah, DMPCD, because it's Kemba or Jaden Hardy. And I know some fans are probably like, why not do it? I just don't see Jason Kidd doing that.
Also, that's dangerous because for the Mavericks to be at their best, they need Reggie Bullock to be good, right?
Yeah.
Like they need
his defense.
They need his defense. They need that, his shooting when it comes around. January's coming, guys. January's coming for Reggie Bullock. They need that shooting. Like, he's hit game winners this season for the Mavericks.
Yeah.
Already. Like they need that position to be good. Because it can't just be Dorian and Josh, because Josh is still an unproven in the playoffs type player. We still gotta see it. And Bullock was incredibly good last season. Don't forget like how much him and Dorian Finney-Smith,
Bang Bros,
how much they were integral to the Mavericks' success in the playoffs. So let's not forget that with just the 2 months that Bullock's been bad.
But can't you see it though? Can't you see the first presser that Jason Kidd does or Nico does after a trade? Let's say it's a Dwight Powell, Reggie Bullock trade.
Yeah.
They bring one player back, and it's in the press conference. They're talking about the new one player that came back in the deal, and they're like, something else is this opened up a spot in the rotation for Jaden Hardy, and we're ready for him. We're ready for him to take the step to be a part of the rotation, get some minute. Like that's what I envision happening at some point in some capacity.
And then there's just us in a boombox in the back going,
Hardy, let's go party.
That's good. All right, that's good.
Some people ask me what that creepy laugh is at the beginning of our podcast intro, and it's Jaden Hardy. It's Jaden Hardy in our preseason interview with him. There you go. Let us know in the comment section below. Who would you rather see get minutes if minutes are available? Isaac just totally threw out the entire premise of the question. Let us know in the comment section below. Kemba Walker or Jaden Hardy over the next couple of weeks. Thanks for making us your first listen. Go check out the Lockdown Sports Today, the biggest stories of the day, instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day. We'll be back tomorrow talking about what Luka Doncic can do the rest of the season. We'll also have 2 episodes this weekend, Friday night and Saturday, where the Mavs will play another back-to-back Bucks and then the Bulls. So a little Midwest action there. Talk about that. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Lockdown Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom!